Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this Cheer preseason webinar with TAPS and Express Cheer. My name is John Skees. I'm the Director of Media for TAPS. I'm going to hand it over to Brian and, excuse me, and Rhonda in just a second to get through today's presentation. But first, I wanted to cover a couple of ground rules about our webinar. First and foremost, this is being recorded. We're going to make this recording available to you later this afternoon. You'll get an email to the same address that you used to register for today's webinar. It'll have a link to that recording. Again, that's later this afternoon. It's going to be hosted on our YouTube page. That's youtube.com/tapsbiz. That way you can review this material if you need to, or share it easily with anybody on your campus. You can just forward them that link. Second thing about today's webinar, if you have any questions as we go through the presentation, I want to draw your attention to the questions interface in GoToWebinar on the little control panel. Type your questions in there. We're going to try to answer as we go, but we are going to have a brief Q&A at the end of the presentation. If we can't answer your question today, if we run out of time, if it's too specific, too in the weeds to answer appropriately in this venue, and we don't get to it, please send us an email, info@taps.biz, once the webinar is over, and we will direct you either to whoever in our office can answer that question or to Chris at Express Cheer. So with that, we're going to get started. I am joined today in the TAPS office by Brian Bunselmeyer, the TAPS Executive Director, and Rhonda Smith, TAPS Director of Fine Arts. We are also being joined remotely by Chris Henson and Ashley Lewis from Express Cheer, who are our cheer partners at TAPS. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Brian real quick.
Thank you, John. I echo that same sentiment. Thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As we're checking the registration numbers so far, this is going to be the largest if everybody shows up in our 10 years of doing the Spirit Championships, both cheer and dance. So thank you all for making the commitment to be a part of TAPS. Thank you for helping us compete with honor and giving this opportunity to our student athletes. Again, 10th year of cheer. It's come and gone so fast. We're looking forward to December. We'll be back at the Bell County Expo Center. Thanks to those folks for hosting us again. Our TAPS staff here in the TAPS office, you've got Rhonda Smith, our Fine Arts Director. You've got Kelly Bay, who is our events assistant. She'll be the one helping you most likely with rank one, and as we get closer, she'll be communicating with you about rosters and pictures and all that kind of good fun stuff. We've got Will Dixon. He's our broadcast engineer, so he's hanging in here with us today, but he'll also be on site once we get to going down at the Bell County Expo. Again, Ashley Lewis and Chris Henson from Express Cheer. They're going to be coming back up in a little bit. They'll be talking to you about the specifics of the competition itself. Thank goodness I'm not the one that you have to rely on for that. So thank you to both Chris and Ashley for making time to be here with us today. From the governance, just make sure that you remember that the TAPS bylaws do govern how things operate in the TAPS cheer world. We do follow NFHS guidelines as far as safety and stunning, but those TAPS bylaws can be found if you go to www.taps.biz, click on the big word on the left-hand side in red, bylaws, and scroll all the way down. You'll find the fine arts opportunities. Rhonda can discuss that here in a little bit, but our rules are pretty specific and they're written out ahead of time. Student eligibility is always a big thing for us, so remember, students on your campus cannot be 19 before September 1. So come Friday or Saturday, if they turn 19, hallelujah, they can compete. If they turn 19 today, I'm sorry. They have to be a full-time day student at your school, which means they're taking 4 classes towards graduation. They cannot have been initially enrolled in the 9th grade more than 4 years ago, which means no 5th-year seniors, and they must be in good academic standing at your school. So most of your kids are going to qualify. If you've got a no class, no play rule, make sure you got a backup somewhere along the way if you've got the one you're worried about. But we're so excited to be offering cheer once again as part of the TAPS program. I'm going to let Rhonda take it over and talk about Rank 1. That is our database that you should be in as well as all of your students. It's also our entry platform. So Rhonda, take it away on Rank 1.
Thank you, Brian. Again, I would like to just thank everyone for being here today and taking time out of your busy day. And thank you, Chris and Ashley, for being here. But rank 1 items that we need to take care of is we need to make sure that all of your directors are listed in rank 1, your fine art director, program director, assistant directors. And here is the huge thing. Please make sure that your emails are correct. This is where we pull our lists when we send emails. And if you have a typo in your email, we don't know that. So you then say, hey, I'm not getting any emails. but when we go back, your email is typed incorrectly. So please make sure your emails are correct. Please make sure you have completed your acknowledgement of rules. And new this year for the fine arts side, we have 4 basic Teams courses, which are some of our courses that we are doing this year instead of scope. So please make sure when you're in there that you have gone in and taken your 4 basic courses. There is a certificate to upload when you have finished the 4th one. So that's what you'll upload to rank 1. We also have one that will be coming that will be cheer specific. Be watching for that email. And when you finish that one, you'll get a certificate, but you'll bring that to the competition. So make sure all of your directors are they are eligible and they're compliant and everything in rank 1. If you have questions, please call the office. Kelly Bay is our rank 1 guru, and she will help you if you get stuck. Also, make sure your kids are in rank 1. Please make sure all your kids are uploaded and that they have completed their student profiles, their acknowledgement of rules, and their medical histories on file. And for cheer, you must have a current physical on file by the time of competition. Your school should have that, and you can put that into rank 1 for them. When you're in rank 1, if you're not sure about rank 1, you should be on the maroon colored tab when you get into rank 1. If you see a blue one, it means you're probably a coach, so hop on over to the fine art colors, which are maroon. That's where you will create your varsity teams and build your rosters. I will be sending out emails that will actually help you do that if you haven't done it before, which moves us to our communications, which if you're not sure, definitely go to our website, which is www.taps.biz. Click on Fine Arts and then Cheer. And then on there, I have the buttons updated. There's nothing there yet, but it does say 2023 Cheer Championship information. We also have fan information we'll send out. You can find your invoices, everything right there, so you can watch there. And again, please make sure your emails are correct so when we send out everything. Every email that we send out that relates to cheer will show up on the cheer page as a post. So if you're not thinking you are getting emails and you're thinking you're missing something and you should be getting something, check on the cheer page and you will see all of the latest and greatest emails that have come from the office. Moving along, I'm moving kind of quickly because I really want to get to Chris and Ashley today because they have a lot of important stuff to share with us. But dates that you really need to be aware of, September 1st is coming fast, and that's when your participation forms are due in the office. That lets us know that you are going to be competing. September 5th is your senior transfer deadline or fall transfer. So if you have seniors and they're transferring in, they need to have been transferred by the 5th. November 16th is the cheer entry deadline. Obviously, more emails will come out about that, so you'll know what to do and when to do that by. And then our most important dates are December 4th and December 5th, which the 4th is small divisions and December 5th is our large division. And as Brian said, we'll be back at the Bell County Expo Center for a wonderful event. They've been great in hosting all of our events. Once you get to the event, competitions that we are offering. Obviously, we have our traditional, you have your large and small squads. We have our spirit squads, or what we call our game day squads that you can enter. We also have mascot competitions. Those are a lot of fun to watch. So if you have a mascot, get them entered. Then we have a chance for the young ladies and young men to show some of their individual skills. They can enter jumps, tumbles, and then we have the stunt groups, which those are pretty impressive to watch when that takes place. If you are not sure what division you fall in, if you go to the bylaws, which is section 260, it says the divisions. Here's the deal. We have right now listed 6 divisions, which is what we will start out with. However, that last little star says we reserve the right to split. And perfect example was last year with the Division 6, 1A through 4A Spirit Squads. We had so many that were that had signed up that we ended up splitting that and made a 7th division, and we had 1A, 2A together, 3A, 4A together. We never know how that's going to split until we figure out who all has signed up and who will actually be competing, but this gives you an idea of where you will fall in your size and in your division. Excuse me. And when you're competing, if you're like, I don't know the difference between traditional and spirit, the next slide will tell you that. Traditional has the crowd leading jumps, tumbles, dances, pyramids, tosses, tumbling, anything that you would normally do with cheer. Spirit is more like your game day sideline, band chants, fight songs, crowd leading jumps, and you'll see something that says basic stunts, which that's new, and it says no inversions. And I'm gonna let Chris address that later, but just notice that there's some differences, and those will be addressed in a moment when I give it to Chris. Competition day, you'll warm up. We do 2 rounds. The first round, and it will be in random order of appearance and performance, and that counts 40% of your overall score. Then you will have time to get a performance review. We do the mascot competition, and then we break to lunch. And if you're not sure what a mascot competition would look like, go to the cheer page. We do have a video up there of some of the past mascots that have done their performances, and they are a lot of fun to watch. Round 2 will take place after lunch, and you will go in the same order that you did in round 1. This performance, however, will count 60% of your overall score. You'll get a performance review. We'll do all of the individual skills, and then we'll get to the fun part, which is the awards, which the top 4 in each division are ranked and receive plaques. If you receive a superior rating for your performance, then they will also receive a plaque. And then we have first team, second team, All-State, and honorable mention that we do get for each of the divisions. Mascots are awarded. And actually, right after the mascots perform is usually when we do their awards, so they'll get that right after they're done. And then at the end, we have our individual skills, and right there, they'll have their little award ceremony. The winner gets a medal and a certificate, and second through fifth place actually receive certificates to round out the individual skill award winners. Now, I know we went through that part very, very quickly, but it's because I really wanted to get to some of the updates and changes that have taken place on the rubrics and the progressions, and we've invited Chris and Ashley of Express Cheer to come on and give us some of these. So I want to turn this over, and if you have questions, please, as John said, please write those in, and then we'll get those answered by Chris and Ashley in our office if we can. And so, Chris, if you'd like to take it away whenever you need a slide change, just tell Will, and then we will go from there. And thank you so much for being here.
Okay, great. So excited to have everyone here. Like we said, Ashley is also here. So we can go ahead and go to the first slide for the changes, updates, rubrics. So what you're going to see here is the first change that we have is performance time. Before we start, I just want to make sure that everyone's on the same page. What we're trying to do is we're trying to create an environment that is easier for everyone, not harder. So what we've done over the last 4 years is we've compiled all the information that teams, coaches have brought to us at that review table, asking for clarity, things that were gray, they weren't sure how to address, and we tried to clean all of that up. So the first thing that we're doing is there's going to be a change in that traditional squad routine. What was previously a minute 30 max for your music is now a minute 45. And the reason that it's gone to a minute 45 is we've seen a shift in the industry this year. And there are tons of teams that come to TAPS that also cross-compete with other companies during the year. And so we're trying to create an environment that will allow them to take the routines from TAPS and have the least amount of changes when they go to compete somewhere else. So trying to create some continuity. And we also hope that those teams that are competing other places that might have avoided TAPS previously now feel more comfortable knowing that they don't have to make such big alterations to the routine. So for traditional squads, your music can be up to a minute 45. If you have already, doesn't mean your music has to be a minute 45. So everybody listen. Does not need to change. So if you've already choreographed your routine for this season and your music is 130, you're not going to be docked, or a team that went to 145 for music isn't going to have an advantage. There's just an adjustment. So your music can be up to 145. You'll notice that the minimum for your entire routine with a combination of music and without has to be a 130, and then the max of your routine is 230. So previously, when you guys were competing in that traditional division and you did a max of 230, you had 130 of music, and that left you with a minute for your cheer. And now, if you decide to go to 145 for music that would leave you with 45 seconds for your cheer. So it leaves you some flexibility on how you want to structure your routine. And then once again, for those teams that are cross-competing between TAPS and other brands, it allows them the least amount of changes. Okay, so that's where we'll start with routine time. So I'm going to say that again. It was 1:30 previously. It can be up to 1:45. It does not have to be 1:45. So don't cause yourself stress and call your choreographer and say, oh my gosh, our music has to be 1:45 now. That is not accurate. You can still compete with that 1:30. You just have some flexibility. Okay. Nothing has changed in the Spirit Squad division time limits. Those are still the same, with a 1:30 being the minimum. With 1:30 being a minimum for a routine, 3-minute maximum for the routine. And what it doesn't say on here is that we're really looking for each of those sections to be limited to 1 minute. Is kind of where you're working. So when you get to Spirit Squad, which is what we would really consider to be more that game day division, where you're doing crowd leading, fight song, and band chant, that each of those are going to total to 3 minutes, but you're really looking at around a minute max for each of those sections. Okay, so that's kind of performance time. So we can move on to the next slide. So now we're going to get into some of the changes. So we're going to get into traditional, which is what we would also refer to as performance in stunts and pyramids. Previously, tosses were on the same page with your jumps and tumbling. We have removed tosses so there's no longer a toss category that's by itself. Tosses are not required to be in your routine, but they can be scored in the pyramid section. What we found was the premise of TAPS was to create a safe environment where teams were being rewarded for the skills that they did safely. And we felt like tosses as an overall were being forced into routines. Sometimes teams were trying to do tosses that weren't appropriate, and that kind of defeated the purpose of safety. So it's no longer required to be in your routine, but it can enhance the overall impression of the routine. But there's not a single place where that is scored as of now. Okay, so just notice that. The other thing that you're going to notice is, and we'll get to it when we go to the slide, but now your dismounts are also going to help you get into range. So previously on our stunt progression sheet, there was no dismounts listed. So pop-off versus full downs, things of that nature, none of that was listed. We are now listing dismounts. So that's traditional stunts and pyramids. I'm going to clarify that one more time. Tosses are no longer required in your routine. They are allowed. Make sure that you reference NFHS rules appropriately and that you do what's okay so you don't get dinged for illegality. And we can move to the next slide. So now we're moving into traditional, which is still that performance division. So this is the one where it's that mixture of music and cheering, up to that 2:30, and now with a max of 1:45 for your music. And we're talking about specifically the cheer and dance. So the things that are in red are where the changes are. So we wanted to really, the questions we constantly got at that review table was like, I don't understand how I score in the crowd leading. How are the judges scoring it? So we wanted to do some clarification. So I'm going to read all of it. It's easy to follow and understand. It encourages crowd participation, use of props, signs, palms, flags, megaphones, etc. And the addition on this page is it emphasizes crowd leading ability with crowd effective material and props to enhance crowd engagement. So we're getting the crowd up to cheer with us. We're giving them directional information, yell with us, yell colors, yell letters, mascots, things of that nature. So that's where you're going to see a difference in crowd leading. Just, it was how the judges were already scoring. We're just writing it down so it's more clarified. You'll notice that some of the point values have changed a little bit. So when we go to dance, the addition here is intricate footwork and pace. So strong motions, transitions, level changes, ripples, and then intricate footwork and pace is the addition to that, with dance being a total of 10 points now for that. And then overall impression, same as that it's been before: showmanship, crowd appeal, good transitions, formations, flow, creativity, choreography, and execution. Okay, so max of 7 points. So you'll notice that if you looked at last year's score sheets, those totals have changed. What was max and then what was the total points for that page. And we can go ahead and move to the next slide. So now we're at tumbling and jumps, and we're still in that traditional category. I think everyone's going to be really happy about this. We constantly had teams that were, in my opinion, they were being, what's the word I'm looking for?
Forced.
They were being forced into doing skills that they weren't prepared for. And then also, as an industry standard, we weren't requiring these types of athletes in high schools to do those skills. And so we looked at two things. We looked at teams being able to do things that were performed at a high level. One, we did not want them to be docked for things. And then also we wanted to line up with the industry as an overall. So previously in that 3.1 to 4, which was advanced, the only option that you had there was a triple whip without variety. So for you to even get into the advanced category, you were having to do 3 jumps. So for example, you might be doing 3 toe touches connected. Well, we've now given you an option that you could do a double jump combo. So it's still 2 jumps connected, but then also do a single jump without variety. So I want you to think about this in that 3.1 to 4 range. So there's clarity from a judge's perspective. If in my double jump combo, I did double toe, and then for my single jump, I did a pike jump. So although that's variety, it's low variety. So you're going to score closer to that 3.1 to that 3.5 range versus a team that comes into that category if they did a double toe and then they also did another single toe later, they'd be scoring lower, okay? If they're doing a double toe and then a pike, they're going to start edging up towards that 4.0. So we want to see a variety of jumps. What's going to get you into that elite category is if that double jump combo, for example, is a front hurdler toe touch connected, and then their single jump would then be a pike. It doesn't have to be that exact combination, but the idea is that we would see 3 different jumps happening and that there would be variety. So previously you had to do 3 jumps connected. You no longer have to do 3. You could do 2 plus 1 to get you into those ranges. So those should be easy changes if your routine has already been choreographed. And those jumps don't have to be in the same section either. I could do a double jump in one section of my routine, later do a single jump, and as long as we've check mark that with the correct and appropriate number of athletes based on the rubrics and the athlete count, you're good to go. Okay. You'll see that the possible points have changed a little bit here as well, with total possible points being 26, difficulty 10, and execution was a 16. One of the reasons that you're going to see some of the numbers changing is, remember, we took tosses off of the score sheet. So the points that were originally being allocated to tosses now are being reallocated on other places in the score sheet. Okay, I think this will also make more sense. Now when you receive your score sheet, you'll see tumbling and jumps on that score sheet versus having a random toss, which really was over with our stunt skills. Okay, we can go ahead and move to the next slide. In our next slide, we're now moving into our spirit squad. So this would be that game day division is kind of how we would consider that. And specifically what we're looking at here is nothing has changed in your band chant, skill incorporation, choice of effective crowd leading skills, technique of jumps, and we've added and or kicks. So before, for you to be able to get full point values, you're having to either do some kind of squad jump or there were intermittent jumps throughout those sections. We've added the option to also do kicks. So that should also help, which truly, if you're doing band chants on your sideline, most likely we want this to be as similar to a sideline that you would do at school. So kicks would be appropriate. And then here's where the big change is going to, we'll get to that in a second. The big change is going to be in crowd leading, but before we get there, just like we talked about in the traditional, the way that you're going to get most value for your points here is that it's emphasizing crowd leading ability with crowd effective material and props to enhance crowd engagement. So we're really pushing that you are engaging the crowd. Now we've added something new for skill incorporation. Previously in Spirit Squad, there were no tumbling and no stunts allowed at all. We've added basic stunts this year to Spirit Squad, but basic stunts can only be utilized in your crowd leading section. no inversions. And you're going to want to refer to the stunt progression sheet that we use typically for the traditional category, and that's going to give you a listing of the basic stunts that are going to be allowed in this division. Okay, so we wanted to see some depth in this division. We wanted to see some separation. Once again, if you don't do basic stunts, if you don't put stunts on the floor, that is okay. You're not required to do that. It's not giving a team an advantage over another team. What we're doing is we're offering people an opportunity. So don't go and start stressing out that your kids can't do certain things all of a sudden and that you have no chance. That's not accurate. We're just offering options in this division. And once again, we're talking about basic stunts, shoulder sits, preps, everything is on 2 feet. There's nothing extended. It's just going to give some variety. And there's no quantities attached to this. So a team of 5 that puts up 1 stunt versus a team of 30 that puts up 2 stunts, there's no comparison in quantities. We're not using quantity charts all of a sudden for Spirit Squad. We're just offering you the opportunity to create some kind of excitement for your athletes and some variation in what you're putting on the floor. Fight song is basically exactly the way it was before. So choice of effective crowd leading skills, technique of jumps, and then of course we've added kicks here again. Remember, this is the one where band chant, you're using a band cadence or a band song. Does not have to be from your school's band. You can have purchased it, and you're leading the crowd. Then crowd leading is no music, and that's when we're utilizing the use of jumps. Potentially you're going to be doing stunts if you choose to do basic stunts, really honing in on using those props to engage the crowd. And then you're going to finish with your fight song, which is once again to music. And if you don't have a fight song that you love, we don't care what fight song you use a different fight song, make sure that it is engaging and pulls the crowd in. So that's the kind of the changes on Spirit Squad, and we can move to the next slide.
Chris, before we move on, I have a question that has come up, and it says, do you need both a cheer and a chant in the crowd leading section of the Spirit division?
That is up to you, how you decide to utilize that. Okay. It is your 1 minute to do how you want to. We've seen lots of variety. Remember, it should be crowd engaging. So you determine how you want to handle that with your team, but you have up to 1 minute to do that.
Okay, thank you. Also, before you go on, I wanted to tell everyone, you're about to see some screens that are screenshots of the rubrics, and if it's hard to see on the screen, if you're at your computer or you have another screen, these are on the cheer page on our website under the rubrics and progressions. So if they need to see it in a larger form, it's on there. So I was just letting them know before you get to the next slide.
Sure.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Okay, let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is going to be changes or updates to the progressions. So it's going to be some of the things in red. These are not wild things. What we actually did is we tried to go through and put some things we felt were in inappropriate boxes and slide them over. And inappropriate in the sense that TAPS as a whole, as well as our teams, have evolved. And so we want to make sure that our rubrics are evolving correctly with the teams that are attending. So one of the things that you'll see, so when we look under intermediate, we have ball up to prep level. Previously, we were asking people to do that to 1 leg to get into intermediate, but the reality is we were skipping a progression. So you're going to be able to do a ball up to a prep level, which is 2 legs. The other change, and you're going to see this across the board, is that we have added dismounts for intermediate, advanced, and elite. So for intermediate, if you do a full down from a prep, whether it's on 1 or 2 legs, that will get you into the intermediate category as far as scoring. Remember, if you kind of read the top, it says you do not have to check off every category to score in a particular range. Teams must show the majority of skills are in the same range to max out difficulty in that range. Less than majority in that range would score on the lower end of that difficulty range. So I'm going to remind you, you need to cross-reference your stunt progression with your quantity chart. And so it'll tell you, for stunts specifically, it's the number of kids on your floor divided by 5 would determine how many stunts. So for example, if you have 15 athletes on your team and you divide that by 5, that would mean 3 stunts would have to do a particular skill to get into a category. So an example, if you were able to get all 3 of your stunt groups to do a full down from a prep level stunt, that's 1 skill in the intermediate category, you would automatically go to a 2.1. For you to start moving towards that 3, you would have to do additional skills. Those skills could also be over in the advanced or elite category, okay? So think whatever first skill you do, whatever box you're doing the majority, that's where you're going to score. So if a team of 15 has 3 stunts that go up and all 3 of them do a full down, they automatically are going to get a 2.1. Then as they continue to do more skills, either intermediate, advanced, or elite, that's going to start pushing their score up as they go. So you meet the minimum score in that box by doing the minimum skill, and then you start working through. So when we move over to advanced, we're doing full up variations to prep level, and those we're accepting all kinds of variations. That can be cross leg, that could be bases moving, that could be multiple connections. So pay attention that there's tons of different ways and styles, and so us limiting how your choreographer and how your particular school trains, we do not want to do that. We want to leave some autonomy here for those full ups to variations to prep level. And then we have a full up to prep level 1 leg as well. Those are going to get you into the advanced category, okay? Then we talk about releases. We do switch up to prep level 1 leg. So we're talking about prep level means at chest. So you're switching up, going from 1 foot to the other, 1 leg stunt. And then we also have a ball up to prep on 1 leg. So you can see how they're moving across correctly based on progressions. And now for a dismount in this one, for you to get into the advanced category, you could do a full down from an extension, 1 or 2 legs, and that would get you in the advanced category, okay? Then we move over to the elite, and we'll talk about where the changes are. Now we're talking about twisting again, full ups or double ups to extended 1 or 2 legs. So in advanced, you only had to go to chest. Now we're giving you an option, a full up or a double up to extended 1 or 2 legs. I think there's some common sense that we're going to use here, and we're going to say a full up to 2 legs is easier than a double up to 2 legs. So if I have one team, so although they both fall into the elite category, if I have team A that we'll still use the 15 as our squad number, so they need 3 stunts. If team A does 3 full ups to the top on 2 legs, and team B does a double up to the top on 2 legs, the team that did the double up is slightly going to outscore them. They're both going to be in the elite category, but they're going to get more points on that sliding scale of a 4.1 to a 5. So it gives you some options to how you want to pick and choose how you match your skills for your team. Okay, we move down to the releases. The additions here are switch up to extended 1 leg stunt, or a ball up to extended stunt, and it can be 1 or 2 legs. And then for dismounts, we're talking about release kick full dismounts. If you're not sure what these are, you can go pull them up. You can look at NFHS rules. So just be aware of that. And then the other change that you'll see is under other and elite, unassisted single base extension or body position with a spotter. Okay. So we want to make sure that we are having those people there. Okay. And then the last thing you're going to notice at the bottom, once again, pyramid/tosses will be scored together. Tosses are not required, but can enhance the overall impression of the routine. Are there any questions that have come up, Rhonda or Will,
Yes.
in this section?
There's
Okay.
one that says, what about a corkscrew down or Bajas?
Corkscrew down or Bajas. So even if they're not listed here, Bajas would follow under an intermediate.
I would say
They're going to be on the high end of intermediate, and those are going to be really those, because now we're talking about things that are more transitional. So we haven't put transitional stunts on here, but a Baja would be a transitional stunt, and corkscrews are going to be semi-transitional. Those are usually coming down and going back into something else. So you're going to see those are going to edge on the, like, I think for both of those skills on the higher end of intermediate, low part of advanced, and it's going to have to do with how how they are executed and how they're performed, and then of course the number of athletes that are doing them. So we haven't gone as far as incorporating every transitional stunt into here, but these are the base points. So I would say for that person who's asking that, pick something that falls into these categories, then add that to it. That's going to help drive your score to the top of those ranges. So be smart about how you put that in. Is there any other questions in regards to that?
Only other thing was where to find the allowed stunts for Spirit Squad, and those are on the rubrics.
It's right here under basic.
Yes.
So for people that are asking about Spirit Squad, remember it said no inversions allowed. So don't even look at inversions. You're able to do half up to prep, quarter up to prep, and then in other, thigh stands, preps, shoulder sits, shoulder stands, and a straddle lift at prep level. Y'all remember this though, like you're talking about Spirit Squad, it needs to be crowd effective and crowd engaging. I don't think just because it says you can do a straddle lift doesn't mean you should do a straddle lift in your routine. It's just listed there. Doesn't mean you should do it. So if you're trying to do shoulder stands and your kids cannot do them effectively, you can't get up with palms, you can't get up with a sign. Once again, cross-reference your NFHS rules. If they no longer become crowd effective, they don't become useful for the Spirit Squad. So be smart about what you decide to put into the routine. Don't just do it because it's there. I'll give you my personal opinion. Half up or quarter up to preps are usually not super crowd engaging because those start with your flyers and your bases facing the back. And if we're trying to do crowd engagement and we're yelling to the crowd, then we're losing our volume. Remember, there's no we're not like how on here these have point values. When you go to Spirit Squad, they have no point values. So you're going to be utilizing stunts specifically to increase your crowd engagement. You're not trying to drive difficulty scores in Spirit Squad. So don't start utilizing these wild and say, oh my gosh, well, our team did a half up and that team only did a prep. There's no difficulty score for those. So don't try to calculate it like that in your brain. It's not going to work. Is there any other questions in regards to stunt progression?
We don't have any more as of yet. So thank you. We can move on then.
Let's move to the next slide. So now we're going to look at the pyramid/toss progressions, and you'll see tosses in red because it's not listed on here. We're not listing tosses. It's just in that pyramid category. So if you decided to throw tosses, that's where they would start addressing that and in your overall. We did no changes to your pyramid progressions. Everything is exactly as it was before. Nothing has changed here. So if no one has questions about pyramid toss progressions,
there's no questions, so we're good.
Then we're able to roll on.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So our next one is going to be the tumbling and jump progressions. We already covered this over on the other section, but you're going to notice here on tumbling that there's been some point values added to these. So before, people would say, well, I did forward rolls, I should get a 2. Well, that's not accurate. So we're showing you if you're doing a forward roll or a backwards roll, you're going to get a 0 to a 1. Cartwheel and round-offs are going to get you in that 1.1 to a 2. Remember, you also have to cross-reference your quantity chart based on the number of athletes you put on the floor. So don't say, well, we had 3 cartwheels and you had 20 kids that you should now get a 1.1. That is not accurate. You have to hit your quantity. So make sure you cross-reference that. Then the other thing that you're going to see is, once again, we made some adjustments to how you can get into the advanced and elite range for jumps with that double jump combo and the single jump without variety, or the double jump combo and a single jump with variety. So that's the change that's there, which we already covered on the previous slides, which I think should make everyone really happy, because I don't know any of your kids who are probably doing triple jumps on the sideline on a regular basis. You are probably pushing for them to even do double jumps. Most likely you're doing singles on a regular basis. So we still want them to have a challenge. Once again, we want to see some good, clean, solid cheerleading. And for those teams that are competing outside of TAPS, this is more of the standard industry, and we want them to be able to also feel like they're being celebrated and rewarded at TAPS, as well as being able to compete other places without having it be labor intensive for their coaches and their school. Questions about the tumble and jump progressions?
None have come in, so I'm assuming
I
we're
think
good.
the other thing I would say here, just as a reminder, is that for those of you that compete other places besides TAPS, your brain automatically separates standing and running tumbling. TAPS does not separate standing and running tumbling. It's done in a cumulative manner. So I want to remind you that if you're doing standing tumbling, it's going to do it at one time. So let's say if you have 15 people on the floor and it's 50% plus one, so we need 8 people doing that skill to get into range. If you don't have 8 people that at one time, that's synchronized, do one of the skills, then really your standing tumbling is not getting you any points in the sense of your tumbling. It can get you overall impression points. It can get you like flow of routine, transitional. But then where you're going to collect your points for tumbling is really going to be for your running tumbling. Is really going to be your running tumbling, because that can be cumulative. So follow me here. If you have 15 athletes on the floor and you need 50% plus one to get into range, not to score the highest, but to get into range, then what's going to happen is you're going to need 8 people to do those skills some point throughout the routine, and they can be collected. So maybe you only have 4 actual tumblers on your team. So those 4 kids do round off back handsprings in the opening of your routine. And then later, those kids also do another round off back handspring somewhere else in the routine. That totals to 8. So that's going to put you in range. So that can be collected through your routine. Standing tumbling has to be synchronized. So be smart about how you're doing that and how you're utilizing your athletes. Questions about tumbling and jump progressions?
Yes, one more. Is standing tumbling allowed in the spirit division?
No. It says that all over those sheets. No tumbling is allowed in the Spirit Squad division. The only change that's been made to the Spirit Squad division is we are now allowing basic stunting, no inversions.
That was the only question that came in just then. So unless there's another one that shows up, there's no more questions.
Okay. So if that's all on, if there's no questions on tumbling and jump progressions, we can move to the next slide.
I want to take a second here just to thank Chris and Ashley and Express Cheer. It's great to have a partner that understands the world of cheer, but also understands the world of TAPS. So, Chris, I give you great applause for helping make our program the best it can be, and also trying to transition between the competitive world and our world as well. As a reminder, all you out there, cheer is one of the Henderson Cup events, so right along with all the other activities, you're earning points towards the overall TAPS champion. So take it a little seriously, but have fun at the same time. We do have a new sponsor that's come on board to TAPS, and that's Cheer Sounds. So I think that's an opportunity. If you still need music, if you haven't already choreographed, Cheer Sounds is out there in the background waiting to help you. Rhonda, you had one more question?
Chris, we did have another question come in. What dismounts are allowed from prep in Spirit Division?
Dismounts, you're really looking at reloads and pop-offs.
Okay.
That's why it's good to have a partner that can answer that
Got that
question.
right.
Because I got to be honest with you, I was going to strike out. So thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you.
So again, go ahead.
Can I just say, I'm going to remind y'all really quickly for people in Spirit Squad, if you're using props in your hands like signs, and some of this becomes common sense when you start cross-referencing your NFHS rules, like you cannot cradle with a sign in your hand. So it just automatically starts marking off things that you won't be able to do. So for purposes of this, and I get it, everyone's very excited and everyone's going to want to try to push the limit and see how much they can do. But we're adding basic stunting to it. Don't ruin it for everyone else by now trying to go crazy and do a bunch of stuff. Like basic stunting is allowed. So we're talking about preps, shoulder stands, shoulder sets, things of that nature. Remember, the number one thing that you want to focus on in the Spirit Squad division is crowd engagement, emphasizing your crowd being able to be led. So we're not looking for flashy, like intricate stunts. We're looking for clean crowd leading things.
from all the years of watching in that Division II. Come out on fire, come out excited, and get everybody else excited too. It's a little hard to lead that crowd engagement if you yourself are not fired up. If you have questions and answers, there's a lot of technical things that are going to go on between now and December. Please reach out to us. We'll get that information to Chris. He's always been good, he and his staff, of answering the questions. They're here to help. This is not a gotcha contest. We're here to help you ahead of time. So if your questions come up, if you see things, please reach out ahead of time, especially earlier in your preparations. The earlier we can help you, the better off I think we'll all be. So, Will, I want you to do me a favor. Let's jump over to the TAPS website, www.taps.biz. We're going to click on the word Fine Arts and the red ribbon at the top, and then we're going to click on Cheer. And that's the Cheer landing page. So it'll be updated in the coming days. This webinar will also be linked there, but there's always an opportunity. Any email that we send out can be found over there in the blog. As you go back through and read, please feel free to reach out, ask questions. And I'm going to let Rhonda finish it up. Again, if you have questions, info at taps.biz. Our phone number here, 254-947-9268. Obviously, we went fast, but we gave you the 10,000-foot view, and as you get closer to that 10-foot view, please reach out and let us be of assistance for you.
Thank you, Brian.
Rhonda, can I say one thing before you close?
Please do. Yes.
We are here in a capacity to serve not only TAPS, the office, but also the organization. We want to see every team show up at the event feeling the most qualified and most prepared they can be. Don't wait till the week before the event and come with questions. Start asking those now. I'm in a complete open book. I will answer any question. I freely hand out my cell phone number. You can text me, email me. Coaches who take advantage of that are the coaches who typically are the most prepared. So it's Chris@expresscheer.com. Rhonda can also send it out. If you're wondering if something is appropriate, does it look like it's crowd engagement? Does this rule follow? You should find out. Ask questions now. And here's what's going to be your saving grace. If you sent an email or if you sent a video and we have responded back to you and said, yes, that is allowed. And then you get to the event and there's been a change in rule or the way that the judges are now interpreting that rule and they feel like it's illegal, you're going to hold on to that email with our response and you're going to bring it to the review table and you're going to say, I was told this was allowed. That will overturn whatever the judge has written on that paper that day. Do your due diligence as a coach and make sure that you are asking those questions and getting full clarity because we do not want you to be penalized. We are here for you as a coach and we're here for your athletes. Nobody sitting on that stand or anyone that's working in the background is looking to give anyone a deduction. We always err on the side of the athlete. So I just want to make sure that we're clear about that. And we want your kids to be successful. And we hope that these changes will do that. The other thing I would suggest that you guys go look at that wasn't in the slides today, two things. There's like a quick look at the overall TAPS, like some of the things that you had to go dig to find in the bylaws. We put into a quick reference guide that should make your life much easier. It's going to answer a ton of your questions. And the other thing is we went through and we cleaned up the way the deduction page looked, and we gave you full explanations of what would be a deduction and what would not be a deduction. So we're trying to really make it where it's as black and white as possible, so that way you feel once again as prepared as you can be before you come to that event.
Thank you, Chris. Yes, you definitely have been a great resource, and I've had many coaches send me things that I'm just like, okay, hang on a second, I'll just forward it straight to Chris. So, yeah, definitely utilize that. If you send it to Rhonda at taps.biz or info at taps.biz or Chris at Express Cheer, any of those, you will definitely come away with what you're looking for. There was one more question, and it had to do with the participation form. Your AD got those participation forms, and they should have turned those in by the 1st. You might check with your AD if they put that you are participating in cheer. More than likely they did, but if they didn't, make sure that the TAPS office knows that you are definitely wanting to participate. And these questions? Oh, and we are updating the list of schools today that are participating on the cheer page. So you'll be able to say, oh, wait, my name's not on there. Let me go run check with my AD and make sure you're on that list. Again, I would just like to give my appreciation to Chris and Ashley for being here today. And I'm going to turn it back to John. You guys have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Chris. And Ashley, sorry. That's it for this webinar, folks. Once again, it has been recorded. We're going to send you a link to that recording later this afternoon. It's going to be on our YouTube page. You'll be able to review this material and share it with anybody else on your campus who needs it. A couple of things to plug for cheer. We have a Twitter account for our cheer competition. That's at Taps Cheer on Twitter. Give us a follow. Tag us in things. We love seeing what you guys are up to, especially coming up to the event in December. We also have 2 episodes of our podcast that kind of went in deep on our cheer contest, and that's interviews with Chris, with some of our coaches from previous years. You can find those on any podcast platform. Just search for Taps Talk or look on the Taps website, taps.biz/talk. And our 2 specific cheer episodes are episodes 11 and 6, I believe. And again, we've got interviews with coaches who've done this before. We've got sound from the championship chips itself. We've got interviews with Chris from previous events. That's all there available for you. At the championship this year, we're going to have photographers on site. Those photos are made available to you a couple of weeks after the contest is over. There's a lot of material to get through, so it takes a little bit. Those images are free to download. You're welcome to order prints if you like, but they're free to download. We have plenty of people who use them for yearbooks or school promotions or just the parents, and the link to that is on the cheer page on the TAPS website. We also broadcast all of the competitions on TAPS TV, and you can watch those at tapstvnetwork.com or by downloading the TAPS TV app on your phone, tablet, or smart TV. Again, if you have any other questions, please send us an email, info@taps.biz, or to contact Chris at the email he gave you. And with that, folks, please enjoy the rest of your day.